You too, Wes. How are you? I see you've been out there warming up the side chat for us. We truly appreciate that. All right,
Sorry
you
about
guys,
that. I
we're
got
going to start off with nutrients. How to get the nutrients into your growing bed so that you can get the most out of your garden. And we're going to let Ron start this off. We've already flipped the coin, and he wins. So go ahead, Ron.
how's that fair? Wait a minute. How's that fair? I
My
mean,
signal's all
geez.
messed up.
I understood last week, but all right. Well, let's talk about your nutrition. Um, the NPK system, and Will's been doing a little bit of research, and there's Elegant, and Will's been doing some research, and he can refer back to it real quick here. The NPK system and what a failure it is, and what it's done to our soil, and what it's doing to each and every one of you. Turns out that the NPK system only calls for 12 different amendments to be added to the soil to give you plant life, but the human body requires 80. And plant life actually needs 70 different supplements. Are you getting everything you need? Probably not. So if you're going to be in a bug out situation, how are you going to supplement yourself depending on the time of year? Is your garden ready? Is your yards ready? Is your property ready? Do you have all the steps in line? And do you have all your nutrition in mind? Such as the Medical Association states that you only need 2,000 calories per day to survive in a bad situation to go through such and such an amount of time. Well, yeah, let's start doing the math on that. Being that the American Medical Association would rather have you sick than healthy, let's double that right off the bat. Then let's talk about males, females, age, activity, how much protein you need versus, how many carbohydrates you need. If you're going to be busy all day long, you need more carbohydrates than you need your proteins.
No, they're not
But you
brown.
need your
Let's see.
proteins to build your muscles. You don't want to be sitting for too long without any protein. You're just going to slump up, slow down, and hurt yourself and do more damage. What direction do you want to go? Do you need the Mighty 90 to have it in backup just in case? I offer it, but that's your call. It depends on how informed you are in your nutrition,
Thanks.
your health, and everything that's going on. We've got a lot of different problems that have creeped up through all of this system that
I'm
they're
having some
preaching to us
issues.
and they're pushing on us. Gray hair is a copper deficiency. It also brings on a bunch of aches, pains, inflammation, what have you. Copper and cinnamon, very, very simple. God made, God delivered, planet ready stuff that you can put into your diet. But who's
Right
telling you
there.
that? Are the doctors? Is the American Medical Association telling you that? No, you're not going to find those people out there. Hey, Mark, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for stopping. So yeah, what did you find out, Will? What did you find out when you went into the NPK system?
Yeah, it says that it transfers within the plants, but it's not difficult to apply effectively. But it says that you're supposed to be giving it something called rock phosphate,
How is going?
and that is supposed to help your compost pile. I've never heard of rock phosphate, so I've heard of phosphate, but not phosphate.
Right, phosphate, the mineral itself, is actually something that is just going to promote the plant root health, but it's not going to do anything for the food web itself. Just the root base. See
Yeah,
that?
that's what they're
That's
saying. That's what it does. Is it strongly indicates a phosphorus deficiency if you don't use it.
right. Well, if you have no food web, you can pour all of that into the soil and all of that into the systems you've got going on, and you're still not going to get anything healthy out of your garden. That's the issue. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about your nutritional value. That's where the NPK system fails. They don't address the beginning of the food web and all of the nutrients we actually need.
Another thing they talk about is the potassium. They say it's being absorbed through the veins of the leaves and stuff like that.
Right.
It's what helps the manufacture of sugars of the movement within the plants.
Right. That makes it more flexible, but you want a stronger plant, not a flexible plant. That's why
Yeah.
plants can't stand up anymore. They don't have enough calcium in them. Again, another one of the many things that they're missing in the system.
They talk about potash too. They're saying that it increases the photosynthesis by increasing the amount of chlorophyll in the leaves.
Right. It greens things up. You can just add iron to your soil and do exactly the same thing.
So it sounds like, from what I've read in your book and from what the internet is trying to tell people, is the internet is telling them to dope it up so that it's not really healthy for you.
Pretty much. They're all following the NPK system.
And that's what this is saying. It is the MPK system.
Right. And it's not healthy. I mean, just look at what's going on in society itself. I stumbled across a picture this morning from 1970 on the boardwalk. There isn't a single overweight person anywhere in that picture, and there's probably 200 people in that picture. You go there today, and they're probably all slightly overweight. Tell me something's not wrong. In just under 40 years, tell me something's not wrong.
It says calcium serves several critical functions and concentrates primarily in the leaves.
Right.
So it'll build the walls of the cells up in the leaves.
Right. It strengthens the plant overall.
I know when I was growing my garden, I used a whole lot of different chemicals on mine too. But by the time it got all done at the end of the growing season, the stalks were like this big around, They were healthy, but that's just, you have to stay at it, and you have to make sure you're giving it the right stuff and not the wrong stuff.
Or you only treat it once a year, maybe twice a year after the growing season, and you get your compost on there to get your active food web on it and make everything bioavailable to the plants all around in one shot.
Yeah.
I'd rather do less work. That's just me.
That's how I
come
was
on,
too.
Ron.
Yeah, hey,
How about you, Reed? You've been doing some of Ron's handiwork. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't use any of the commercial chemicals and stuff. I try to do things as sustainable as I possibly can around here. Because one of the things that always occurred to me was if I depended on all these chemicals right now, when it got ugly or SHTF, I was going to be in a big problem because my yields would be so horrifically off. So I mainly try to do things sustainably as best I can. For me, one of the things I always try to do is get a lot of plant matter from the old stuff mulched into the soil at the end of the year, and always try to get some nitrogen fixers in the plants. I plant lots of beans. What's the other one? I'm still working on some chickpeas and everything else, but I don't use any of the chemicals.
Well, isn't there something that can't you use like charcoal from when you're doing barbecues and stuff? Put that back into the ground instead of going out and buying like potash and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I save all of that stuff.
To do it that way, Ron?
Yeah, it's a neutralizer, and any of the charcoal itself, provided it's not match light and not chemically treated, any of those charcoals put in the soil are going to help the soil store water. See, one interesting thing about charcoal, not only is it a bunch of different minerals that are going to break down, it's also a storage cell, like a sponge. It will actually attract other minerals to it and make it more bioavailable to the plants.
Yeah, I use lump charcoal all the time. I moved to that quite a while ago. So, and we saved all our charcoal from our wood fires that we make. 'Cause we have a little fire pit we like to burn stuff in for our woods and stuff. And I've got a pile of charcoal, and I just dig it up and put it in the soil.
Absolutely. One of the best things you can do is an amendment for any soil conditions.
Yeah, charcoal's really helpful. Sorry guys, I was a little tired today. I was enthusiastic.
See, what everybody's got to understand is that all of the different flavors that you taste out of a garden, I don't care what they are, whether they're carrots, peas, peppers, tomatoes, all the way up through your corns and your watermelons. All of those individual flavors that you're picking up are different mineral combinations that the plants themselves get out of the soil through the communications of the food web and bring back to the food. If you could taste food from 35 years ago in our fields and in our gardens as to what's available today in the grocery store, you would be sadly disappointed. There's no flavor left. Things are dying off. The country's 85% deficient in our soils. We are leading the world in bad soils. It's because of the way we farm with the NPK system. We've got to get away from it. If you want to be healthy and you want to have that nutrition, and again, if you're getting into gardening, if you're not, you need to be looking into your canning. You need to be gathering from your gardens, from your farmers. You need to be going and looking at Cheryl's canning videos. You know, leaning back on Cheryl a little bit more, she just did a video, you guys, for prepping, where she has prepped some stuff. Go back and look at her video.
Well, what can you use? What can you use in place of? Shoot, I just lost track. God dang it! Trying to think of phosphorus. What can you use in place of phosphorus that comes naturally?
When you apply the mineral bases like the ones that I offer and the ones that are offered in my book, you already amend those. The food web itself will already take care of that and adapt the minerals that you're putting in the soil to bring your phosphorus levels back up.
Yeah, that was one of. If we do exactly what we were talking about at the end of last week's session, right? You clip the old vegetables off at the ground instead of pulling them out.
Right.
And the roots of those plants actually take over the course of the winter and procreate the dirt, right?
Right. They are what sustains and what keeps the food web alive, basically. They're the storage place. So that when you come in the next year and plant the same crops, those filaments, those different roots are going to come in contact with both the dead organic matter and the living organic matter. And they're going to take off. And they're going to push really, really hard, really, really fast, and get your plants up a whole lot faster than your neighbors because you've left the food web intact, sitting in the soil. You haven't disturbed it. In other words, no till. Don't break your soils up. Open them up and get your plants in there.
Yeah,
Don't break them up. Don't till them up and kill everything.
like raking or hoeing, right?
Yeah, you can. Those are safe. They're questionable. You more so want to just go in with a pitchfork, open it, crack it a little bit, maybe turn it, and get some stuff in there.
And leave the roots in there, but you can pull out the other stuff, right? Like the rotted, the stalks and stuff. Or would you leave those in there?
I would leave those down to help armor the soil and cover the soil. You want to keep that moist. You want to keep that air conditioning and that moisture water system working. Now, obviously, you've got to be careful. If you've got sick plants and you've had issues, obviously, you don't want those back in your garden a second time. You're just going to cause new problems. That's where a lot of people that compost is a natural way of taking care of your plants and keeping your nutritional value up because it's bringing in the good of the 25,000 microbial life forms in your area for your growing season to make that stuff bioavailable and make those plants healthier. It's when you've got all these other conditions and you're leaving sick plants down and you're not enhancing the soils in adding new amendments to the soils, then you start to have these bad microbes and these bad problems coming back into your gardens and into your yards and causing a bunch of different diseases.
Well, isn't there a natural way to compost?
A natural way to compost, as in burying everything and waiting for the
Well,
next.
like when I made my compost, I didn't like put it in a big barrel or anything. I just had a place out in the back 40 where I went out and just dumped everything
Oh
and
yeah,
left it to sit. And then when I needed something, I would just go out there, get a wheelbarrow full, and go use it out in the garden.
right. That's the all natural way of letting Mother Nature handle it and not being a disturbed pile. But when you've got those kind of piles, you want to avoid putting in your citrus, your meats, and your bones because they're going to attract other wildlife.
Yeah, Wes has a way. He does his. He did a video one time. You want to come up here, Wes, and explain how you did that one thing with how you made the compost by spraying it down?
Yeah,
Are
now
you?
you put him on the spot instead of me. That works.
Well, he did it one time. I thought it was a really cool way of doing it.
He said in the chat.
I think it was something to do with the covering it up and then going out, and I think you covered it with a tarp, wasn't it, Wes? And then you went out there every couple of days and pulled the tarp back and wet it down or something like that, and then put the tarp back over it. That was you, right?
Right. That's you bringing up your heat levels quicker. That's building a compost all natural and getting that thing active as possible, as quickly as possible. The only issue is if you get that thing up over 163 degrees, it actually becomes toxic. It
Yeah.
becomes dangerous for all plants. So you've got to pay attention to it.
So what would you put in there? You could put like leaves and stuff like that, any kind of natural.
Everything, anything you can think of. If it came out of the ground at one time or came off a plant somewhere, it can go in a compost pile. You can even put a full grown cow in a compost pile. And if it's active enough, you won't find all of it at the end of the season. It will all break down.
So if you wanted to create a perfect garden area, you could take like a 10 by or a 20 by 20 tarp and lay it out and just start building your compost underneath it, right?
Yep.
And then by the start of the next planting season, you could just take it off and start planting, right? Would that make sense?
If it never got over 160 degrees.
Yeah.
Because once you get over that, then the bad microbes kick in that live over those temperatures. You don't want to apply those to your garden. That's the issue.
Someone brought up about sick plants too, diseased plants. I don't remember exactly how they worded it, but I'm trying to find it. Here, sick plants go into the burn pile to kill the sickness.
You got it. You got it. Keep those bad microbes away from your gardens and away from your yards. Burn that stuff. Use the ashes, but burn everything off.
Burn it. Then could you use the charcoal from it after you burn it?
Absolutely. See, the thing is, when you're talking about compost, you're looking at a couple of different microbial conditions that are going on, but you're also looking at killing off certain diseases. Everything like salmonella, for instance, it's one of the big ones they talk about a lot. It dies at 130 degrees. That's why you can cook so many fishes and get them over the 145 they call for in the cookbooks and be safe, even if it potentially had salmonella. In your chickens, it's a little bit different, but when it comes to your compost, you've got to be 130 to 150 to 160 degrees to burn off all that bad stuff before you ever apply it to a garden.
Well, actually, Ron, I believe in survival of the fittest. You know? I want everything to fight to live out where I'm at.
He did mention, Wes did mention he used black plastic.
Right.
I couldn't remember what he used, but I know that I watched that video and he kept covering up and then going back a week later and uncovering it, wetting it down with a hose really good, then covering it back up. and then doing the same thing back and forth until it broke down. So I was just wondering if you could do that anywhere, or if it just worked for him in Texas.
Oh no, that'll work everywhere. You just have to watch your temperatures. Well, Uncle Al, in that situation, especially with the homeowners association, you can dry compost in black containers and what have you, and bring your temperatures up. You've just got to be more attentive to your runoff and keeping your moisture content at only 50%. Once it passes that point, once it's over 50%, you start killing everything off. And that's when all your fleas and that's when all your bugs come and that's when all your problems come. That's when the association is calling saying, what's that hideous smell? That's when you've got bad compost. That's when you're in trouble.
Oh, when it starts smelling like a rat hole?
Oh, yeah. That's when it's gone bad and you don't want to use it. Light that thing on fire and walk away.
Palmetto Anthony, he says cover crops will be his go-to every winter.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. He said I did a huge experiment this year, and let's just say raised beds and no-till with cover crops from now on.
Ta-da.
Okay.
Well, we got all the stuff done where we need great.
It's amazing how my book keeps from coming up right every direction you turn, isn't it?
Kind of planned it that way. So we're going to go right from the nutrients. After we do that, now we've got, what are we going to do with those plants after we get them nice and plump?
Right. Well, then you need a canner, and that's not me.
That's not you.
I deal with the soils. I deal with your nutrition, your health, and the soils.
Does anybody know about the canning?
Well, Reed
like
probably
canning.
knows more than I do.
Reed's our expert.
I
I'm
think
not
so.
sure I'm a canning expert. I
You're
just
not
can.
I wanted to say I put a link in there. That is the link I put in there was for the video that Ron was referring to that I did on preparing a 3-day bucket for 4 people and counting your calories, making sure you're providing enough calories for each person, making sure you're providing enough of the different types of things that you need, and you're having well-balanced meals. So, and that's just the first video. I've got more coming on that one. But that link is what that is. So.
Who out there on the side chat knows anything about canning?
Well, is it Prepper Potpourri should be asked, is what Hubble is saying.
Is she here?
I haven't seen her name.
No, I haven't seen her here either today.
Absolutely creative.
If we
1,000%.
if we creative redundancy said something about eggshells.
Absolutely 1,000%. Gather all your eggshells. Never throw them away. Let them dry as long as you can. And crush them into a fine powder and treat your flower beds, treat your gardens, treat your entire yard. The more calcium you have, the more neutral you are, the stronger and healthier your plants are.
What if you get bugs like slugs or something coming into your territory?
You just put out a can of beer.
Can of beer? That's a waste of good beer.
Well, hey, you asked. What you do is take a pie tin and you put that out there near especially your peppers. They love peppers. And you put just a little bit of beer in at night before. And the next morning you come back and all your slugs are dead because they like beer just as much as we do.
Well, I heard that if you put salt along the way, they will cross over it. And then,
but you don't want to be adding any salt near any soil, any of your plants, any of your gardens. You'll cause yourself other problems.
Oh, yeah.
Sodium is bad all the way around.
Will, can you put the link back in there? Maybe Palmetto can come in here.
I thought I was sending one, but I'll give it to him.
Yeah. He said there's 2 types of canning, hot water bath.
There you go, Anthony.
And there was something else I saw too. Okay, here. Hot water bath is for things with acid, like fruits, tomatoes, things with vinegar.
Yep. And then the low acid foods, we got to use the pressure canner.
Yeah,
There's
and he
actually it's not out yet, but I've been watching. There's actually a development going on for botulism test strips, and I'm really interested to see that product get finished up so that you can actually test your low acid cans for botulism
I'd heard
and
something.
such.
Well,
Yeah,
that would be way interesting there.
And yeah,
I think botulism is something that's going to get a lot of people if they are not when they are pressure canning.
Well, you're supposed to sterilize everything before you start, aren't you?
Well, yeah, but the problem is botulism, the bacterium that makes it, you have to get things pretty darn hot. It's a bit over 200 degrees, if I remember right. And the botulism bacteria that makes it grows in low acid, no oxygen environments, which is perfect for like canned green beans and a bunch of meats and all that other stuff. So if things are not done really well and you get it real hot with your pressure canner, you have a good risk of dealing with the botulism. And the toxin is so toxic, it's just micrograms that can kill you.
Anthony,
Somebody better check on his wife.
Hey,
speak.
you hear me? All right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. We good now?
Yeah. Sure,
Okay.
you're up.
I'm sorry, y'all. I was in the far away from the Wi-Fi, so I didn't get very good signal. All right. When it comes down to canning, I caught half of what Reed was saying, but the main thing I wanted to hit here is the two different types you want to do is the hot water bath and the pressure canner. Now, I got my pressure canner right here. I don't know if you can see it, but basically, pressure canner is for low acid vegetables. So your beans, if you want to do meats, that kind of thing. It's the only way that you can safely do it because botulism gets basically killed at about 240 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get 240 degrees with boiling. So you have to pressure can it because it raises the atmospheric pressure, which raises the temperature. So once you get to 240 degrees, that's when you start killing botulism. And that's why you need the ball book, the handbook, to show you how long you actually have to do it. With hot water canning, it's usually only for like fruit, say you're doing jams or jellies or applesauce or tomatoes, since they're really high acidic anyway, and they really don't have the botulism problems that everything else does because the acid keeps the botulism in check. Right?
So you have to do that for every bottle then?
The canner is so big that if you get like a normal size pressure canner, you can usually fit about 12 jars in there at one time, 12 pints.
Yeah, so you've got a low row and a top row of the pint jars.
Yeah, with the hot water bath, you have to make sure that you are covering the jars by at least this much water, by an inch. With the pressure canner, you only need about 3 or 4 inches of water in the canner, and then you put the top on and pressurize it, and you're good. But the hot water bath, the water has to cover the tops of the jars at all times to make sure you're processing effectively.
Yep.
Well, that sounds like you got to do a lot of work.
Oh yeah, canning is a long process. You can spend a whole evening making your cans.
I wondered why my grandma spent the whole day in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It will literally take all day, but it'll take all day. But the good thing is, like, if I'm doing pressure canning, you don't ever want to walk away from your pressure canner because if that thing drops below, then you got to start all over again. So you want to make sure you're watching it to make sure you're maintaining that 11 psi or 12 psi that you need. So you kind of want to pick a day when you're going to be doing something in the kitchen anyway, and you can keep an eye on it. So just remember that you don't want to walk away from a pressure canner because you don't want to have those, blow up stories of, hey, the vent valve got plugged and boom. So just keep that part in
Or
mind.
even worse, boil your run your pressure canner dry. Then you pretty much ruin the whole thing.
Yeah. Hey, how come there's no more steam?
I think I got the gist of this question. I didn't quite catch it all, but they're wanting to know about pressure canning in a grid down situation. Is it possible, like over an open fire? I'm kind of getting that gist of the question.
Yeah, you can do it over a fire. You
It
just got to
depends.
watch the fire.
The older ones, yes, because they're made of like iron or steel. The newer aluminum ones that you get from Presto, you cannot put those over an open flame. So just remember that.
Yeah, I actually have an aluminum one too. So actually, if you're gonna do it on a flame, I actually have a steel plate that
There you go.
sits.
Yeah.
So it becomes the bottom, like the burner, and that gets hot, and that heats the aluminum thing.
There
Okay,
you
so if all hell broke loose and there was no way to get it on an open stove or something like that, a gas burner, you could do it like over an open fire. If you had,
Yes.
if you had like
If you had that,
say
Yeah.
just
Yes.
a cast iron pot.
Not for a pressure canner.
No,
Yeah, the pressure canner, you have to have. What was it again, Anthony? What kind of?
Well,
If
it depends on your altitude. Yeah, what altitude you're at is going to determine what pressure you have to get there to sterilize it correctly.
everything is going to be in your ball book. And when I say ball, I mean like the mason jar ball. If you go to any place like Tractor Supply or bookstore, basically anywhere that's got something homesteading related, you'll find what's called the ball manual. And it's actually on my coffee table in the other room right now. But it'll show you every single, it'll show you recipes, but it'll show you times for how long you actually have to can something. So a general rule of thumb, if it's a pressure canner, you're going to want at least a minimum of 11 PSI for about half an hour on up. Usually takes a little while versus a hot water bath, which is usually cover the jars in maybe 15 to 20 minutes. But with the pressure canner specifically, it cannot drop below that pressure because if it does, you have to start over. It's not safe if you don't.
Well, how did they do it back in the 17 or 1800s? How did they preserve their food then?
They didn't have canning back then. They had to do salt.
A lot more dry goods. They would dry stuff out.
They could do that with vegetables too then?
And smoking.
How would they do it with vegetables?
It was salt.
You dehydrate them and
dehydration.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I don't know why you couldn't do it with like a cast iron thing if you put pressure on the lid like bricks or something.
Well, you won't be able to control it correctly. That's the big problem. You have to have real fine temperature control on it.
If you ferment, you can do it with cast iron, and you can act like a big crock. But there won't be any pressure in it, and there won't be a seal because you need actual something to seal it. That's why it was like the new big thing in the late 1800s, early 1900s when they came up with the porcelain inserts for these mason jars. Now you can store food for long term.
Well, don't forget about the wax seals. The old wax they used to pour in there to seal them up.
Well, they made moonshine back then. You would have thought that concept would have worked for canning.
Well, that's a distillation process. That's very different.
It has to get to a certain temperature, and they don't have any way of measuring it.
Moonshine is you can set that thing out for years and nothing's going to happen to it. It's too high of alcohol content. Bacteria can't grow. Botulism's dead.
Would make sense to me that some way you could do it through cast iron. Maybe somebody needs to practice with it.
I know. We'll just store all our vegetables, in vodka.
Reed's our what do we call him now? The guy with the white jacket now? He's called what? The Reed.
The mad scientist?
The science guy.
Mad science guy, yeah. Give him something to play with.
Wee Wee is asking how do you can over an open fire, and that's kind of what we was talking about. Is you just
kind of what we were wondering. Yeah. There's got to be a way to do it. I mean, there's just got to be a way that you can do it. I mean, we have technology now. We ought to be able to reverse technology.
You need a pressure, and you need to be able to do it with a open fire. It's going to have to be a cast iron pressure canner or a steel pressure canner One of the ones like Modern Refugee has it, like the older ones, those can go over an open flame. But the newer Prestos, the aluminum, they can't go over an open flame, so you have to do a redux and put a piece of steel between it as an insulator. That way the flame doesn't burn the aluminum.
So you have to find the older type and just put it away for SHTF days, right?
You always want to have multiple
you
forms.
just get a steel plate to have the fire make that your hot cooktop and stuff like that. And of course, the other thing that's also kind of neat, if you think about it, in terms of solar power, if you have a big enough solar electric system, then if you have a an electric oven, you effectively have an unlimited supply of fuel.
Trying to read this. People's is chiming in.
Oh,
Yeah, him and Wes are saying that canning is not a way. Pressure canning is not a way of being sustainable during Tiawaki.
Well, because you have to redo the lids. You need to keep buying lids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're being totally screwed within a couple of years of being without any kind of electricity or anything. Everybody will be kind of screwed, huh?
It's more of a stopgap than anything. You're going to want to learn how to ferment, and you're going to want to learn how to dehydrate, and go back to the older 1800 style salting, curing meats, and that kind of thing.
Well, you should be able to dehydrate stuff even without the dehydrator, right?
Yep, build a solar dehydrator, you're good to go.
You can dehydrate in the stove, in a regular stove. So you could build a stove out in the woods made out of rocks and stuff and dehydrate that way. It just takes a long time. It takes I think all day to do just like regular jerky. I looked it up and I was going to try it once because you could just do it in the oven. It just takes all day to do it.
I did it in the oven one time and it took about 12 hours to get my, brisket to dry out.
Yeah.
Well, then the question, if you're going to be salting everything, make sure you know where a good salt deposit is. You're going to go through lots of salt.
Unless Texas Ocean.
Your preps, they tell you to make sure that you got tons of it, not those little bitty bags, those big bags, because that's what they used to cure everything back in the day,
Prepping to Endure said they do make reusable canning lids.
There's a company called Atler. You can buy those reusable canning lids. I have a bunch of them. I'm still playing with them. Still working on them.
Are those the ones with the little rubber gasket on them?
Yeah, well, they got rubber gaskets, separate parts. So the lid's plastic.
You only use those once and then you had to throw them away.
Well, these ones you don't. The rubber is really, really thick, so it's supposed to be used over and over again.
Who else wants to know if road salt works for salting meat?
No.
I don't think so. Yeah.
If you want a good supply of salt, go to the ocean.
Yeah. I have seen, there is a channel that has, that I watch that has that she dries, uses a solar dehydrator to dehydrate her fruits and vegetables. It's an old school, let's see, what's her? Old school prepper, I think. And she actually has a solar dehydrator. So, and she uses it all the time. So,
a solar dehydrator?
Yes, a solar dehydrator.
Those cost a lot of money.
She made
it
screens out of like the screen door type stuff, and the really tiny squared wire, the mesh type. She made it out of those and just made her own. And I don't know. It looked to me like, I haven't actually watched her video of, but it looked to me like maybe a door frame that she had glass in that she closed it up with. It was handmade. She didn't buy any of this stuff. She made it. So.
I
pretty
see out there that Hooples is saying use a car as a dehydrator.
Yeah, all you gotta do is just open up your cracking up the
Open the
window.
windows. That's what he was saying. Put it in the car. Open the window a little bit.
And bake some cookies next to it. If you're in South Carolina.
Yeah. Uncle Al keeps yelling metal cans.
Gray Man says he has salt blocks all over his property. That would probably still work. Salt blocks, you'd have to just break it up and grind it down.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of really good salt deposits. And actually, one of the really cool things is if you could get at a good salt mine, so on a completely different area, is building up a place in the salt mine would be a really good temperature controlled area for storing lots of stuff. It'll stay around 50 degrees. Salt will keep the humidity in the right levels and everything. I mean, you could put meats in there. Make it a dry cure area. I mean, all sorts of stuff. A cold salt mine be a great place to reuse for storing stuff. In fact, I think there's a place where they put a bunch of Hollywood movies and all that in old salt mines for that exact reason.
I know they have salt mines down in Louisiana. So, okay, I've got two things. Bell Prepper said that there are tons of free solar dehydrator plans online. And then Old Man said, can you use plain rock salt for salting meat?
Yeah, rock salt is
Rock salt,
no problem.
I would think that would work perfectly.
Yeah.
I got a question
Actually,
for Mr. Ron. Say if you start growing your garden organically, basically what you're doing, if you got your plants to growing better than like the store-bought stuff, would that make it easier to can? Or
Yeah, your mineral bases are higher.
I'm trying to think the right way to say it. Even if you couldn't can it, would you be able to put it away?
Yeah, because it'll dehydrate the same way, but it's going to dehydrate on a higher mineral base.
So does that take extra anything?
Not really.
You would still just use the same basic knowledge?
Yep.
What if we didn't have all the tech stuff? What then?
You'd be right back where we were with the Indians and basic storage the way they were 200 years ago.
So you'd have to be like a root cellar or something like that?
That would definitely be my highest suggestion is get back into root cellars, get back into going deep into the soil and storing everything.
Yeah.
Yes, Mark.
And yeah, I have a book that I'll do a video on about root cellars. So I'll do a review on that book. A lot of people in my area still use root cellars. They also have them for storm cellars. It's a combination of root cellars and storm cellars. So I'll do a video on that review. I had another question. I don't know. Creative Redundancy said, would cow salt work then? What's cow salt?
Isn't that like the blocks that Gray Man was talking about?
Yeah, a cow lick
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
versus a deer lick, it's the same thing.
The
Winging
main
it
thing
with Irish Colleen says Epsom salt was good for their garden.
What's that?
the main thing with salt is you don't want to use a lot of your table salt because it's got the anti-caking stuff in it. Everything else is usually the same stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, because you're talking such high sodium levels in table salt nowadays, it's no good for you.
How about the Epsom salt, Ron?
Yeah, for gardens, absolutely. Use it in your entire yard. Use it everywhere.
That's
Don't
what,
use it on food.
That's what Colleen was saying, that she used it in her garden and it was amazing.
Oh, yeah, that's right there in my book. That's one of the ingredients. Treat your yard to Epsom salt all the time. You want to break down that clayification and open things up. Absolutely.
Okay, Wee Wee wants to know how you would preserve carrots. Wouldn't you store those like you would any other root vegetable? Or do they require something different?
You can pressure can them. You can dry them. Like Uncle Al told me, you can julienne cut them and dry them. I like to pressure can them, but they store really well in cold places if they're kept in water.
C103 says his dad dehydrated apples and pears on the tin roof of the barn.
Yeah, Sue Nelson said that when they were a kid, they split apricots in half and laid them out to dry in the sun, and you should use cheesecloth. Is that to cover them, Sue?
KFAB, you need my book. Epsom salt is not salt. It's from Epsom, England. It is just called Epsom salt. It's an actual mineral base, a bunch of different minerals located and found in Epsom, England. And those minerals that are in there amp up your garden and its growing abilities tenfold. That's not the kind of salt we're talking about. What they're talking about is sodium rich, iodine rich, table salts type of stuff. Epsom salt is not salt at all.
That's what he said, Alana. Epsom salt is not salt. Somebody was saying that their grandma kept their carrots in sand down in
Yeah.
a cold room for the house, the basement, I think.
Yeah, and Acer is saying depending on where you live, you can leave them in the ground and harvest when needed.
Well, when it's ground
But
starts freezing, it's gonna make it kind of tough. Well,
yeah,
not for reed, I guess.
yeah, not. I mean, yeah, in the south that'd be okay, but further north, I mean, we couldn't do that here. So
It would just depend on where you live.
yeah. Um,
West stores his carrots and rabbits.
and yeah, yeah.
They give the best flavor, absolutely.
And
I like my protein rich carrots.
Don't eat what, Uncle Al?
Gray Man wants to know if anyone has any tips on longer term storage of kale or other greens.
Wouldn't you dry those?
I would think that you could dehydrate them, wouldn't
Yeah,
you?
your long leaf. You'd want to dry those or dehydrate them.
It would be my guess anyway. Yeah, some stuff to look up. We're gonna have
Okay.
to read the science guy after that one deal with the cast iron bucket over the fire for canning. Don't blow yourself up.
Anthony is saying that you can dehydrate kale or make kale chips. He got booted off, by the way, because of his Wi-Fi.
Yeah, my internet's acting screwy around here too. I keep getting all these little spinners. Boy,
Yeah, I would try dehydrating them, Gray Man. That should be pretty easy. You got a dehydrator. I know you do. You can try it and check back with us and let us know how it goes. Yeah, kale's pretty good. I agree, Wes. It does taste pretty good.
Okay, I'm not sure what she's talking about. Lori Jean is saying layer of sand, layer of carrots in a bucket of any kind and repeat and cover top with sand.
Oh, that's what she talked about, how her grandma kept carrots down in the basement, in the cool spot of the basement, inside of sand. They would probably how she did it was layer them in sand, cover them up with sand, then put another layer of carrots in there, and then another layer of sand. That's probably what she's talking about there.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Um,
Let me look into that more, Mark. I don't want to answer that question just yet. Let me look into that.
okay, I got a question about the this is more of the vitamin and mineral and all the nutritional aspect of it. Hooples is saying kale is the new meat. Is kale something that could replace the protein you'd get in meat?
It does have a lot of proteins in it. Comes out of the
It's got your
seed.
higher iodines. It's healthier for you. I don't know if I would starve the rabbits or the fish. Sorry, I'm not into being a Californian. That's why I don't live there.
Anyone grow radishes? Mark wants to know. Show him your radish. Have you ever shown him your radish yet?
Oh no, he'd have to eat. Yeah, well, yeah, he saw my other video. He saw the size of my radish. Yeah,
Yeah, that
on
big
the test
radish.
bed. I've got 5 more of those that have popped up and pushed themselves out of the ground. They're getting too big.
Wes
I
says
didn't, I didn't pull any today, so no, because I plan on just grinding those right back into the soil. Let those things become pure nitrogen.
uh, Wes says
About
no.
8
Kale is a
minutes left,
vegetable.
Ron. I want you to give us a 8-minute closer.
An 8-minute closer.
Yeah, do that list of the vegetables not to, or the 12 no foods.
Oh, geez. Okay. Um, um, wow. Okay.
Like putting you on the spot, right?
Right. Let me scramble my brain here a little bit worse than it already was because I'm trying to figure out what Mark's onto about weight loss. Um, there are 12 stated, and I'm sure the list is growing as new things come out, like certain foods to avoid because they are bad for you. They will cause harm to the brain. They will, like soy, tremendously bad for the brain. Will cause cloudiness and what have you. Um, so there's this basic list of 12 of your wheat, your barley, your rye, your oats, and oatmeal. Believe it or not, these are actually bad foods for you. They are going to cause you to gain weight. They are going to cause you health issues. You want to avoid these. Certain
Oatmeal,
types of oils, canola
oatmeal
oils,
together.
your coconut oil. Believe it or not, it's great for your hair, but it's absolutely terrible for cooking because it does something. It causes toxic things to happen to your food. So you want to avoid some of your deep fryers and that kind of stuff. Um, avoid burned fats, and that really sucks because I love my barbecue, so I'm just going to continue being unhealthy. I'm sorry. No carbohydrate drinks. Avoid your pop. Oh my God. People in their power drinks and their power aids and their power this and power that and all this. Oh my God, what you guys are doing to your thyroid gland and causing yourselves to gain weight. Please avoid these things. I don't care how much caffeine it's got in it. It's got chemicals in there that are going to stop your thyroid from working. And once the thyroid shuts down, then everything else shuts down. Please be careful when you're dealing with these kind of things. Um, baked potato skins, another bad one. When you boil a potato, certain things come out. When you bake a potato, you actually cause that thing to become toxic. Do not eat the skin of a baked potato. The inside of it is great, but the outside is not healthy for you. Be careful. Stay away from those. Soy, I was just talking about. It's a bad one for the brain. And last but not least, I'm sorry, but your corn, because so many of them are GMO. We're not getting our hands on heirloom corn anymore. It's
I got
almost
heirloom corn.
impossible. Well, I'm not saying it's totally impossible, but avoid your store boughts. You don't know that they're GMO or not. Just because they're paying the high schooler to sit in the back room and stick a label on it doesn't make it non-GMO. I'm sorry. Avoid those if you aren't growing it yourself. And again, we'll just go back to the same thing. A lot of these foods are now toxic. A lot of these foods are bad for you. They do not have the nutritional value they should have. There are 70 different minerals that you should be getting out of your foods, out of your garden every single day eating your own grown foods. You've got problems in the grocery stores today. So this list is continually growing as things get worse and worse and worse. Please pay attention to your health. Just because the AMA states, hey, you only need 2,000 calories a day, no, you don't. For them to come out and say back in 1953 that your spinach gave you enough iron in 1 cup per meal per week, you had enough iron to live on. Today's values per our soils, you need 8 cups, if not 12 cups of the spinach coming out of your soils because they are so deficient. So pay attention to what's going on. Start looking the other direction. Start prepping. Grow your own. Get healthy. Avoid store-bought. When you can walk into a grocery store and you can buy 4 or 5 tomatoes and it's going to cost you $5, and these things they're not healthy, they're not good for you, they're bad for you. But when you can walk into any store and pick up a non-GMO pack of seeds for tomatoes for 80 cents, 90 cents, $1, and grow hundreds of dollars of tomatoes, it's not rocket science, people. Save yourself some money, put some money away, and grow a garden and get healthy. Bottom line.
Hello, Rob. Rob Painless is in the room.
That's not
Hey,
Rob.
Rob.
That's, oh, he is. Hey, Rob, how are you doing, my friend? How is my brother doing?
Okay, I had a question. Oh, no, there was a statement. I wanted to put this out there. Bell Pep
Hey, how you doing, D-Mac?
I'm
said,
doing good, man. I don't know if you guys can hear me very well. I am kind of in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, driving from Salt Lake City to Atlanta right now. So I figured I'd pop in on one of my
you're
little breaks
moving.
to say hi to you guys. So yeah,
You're making the move.
I am. Yeah, we're about 1,400 miles away from our spot. So
How's the move going? You about done?
I just got to drive it now. I've got everything packed in the truck and got a 26-foot truck towing my Jeep right now, so it's awesome driving that thing through the mountains. Thing's gutless, man. At 30 miles an hour up through the Rockies. That was great.
Oh, yeah. That's how I was when I moved here from Washington State. I had a 26-foot truck, too. Man, that thing was gutless.
Yeah, as soon as you try to cross any sort of elevation, man, there's no turbo, there's no nothing in it. So what are we talking about tonight? I didn't even catch the topic. So
the topic was nutrients in the soil.
Beautiful.
we've got a donation here.
We're just about done.
Yeah,
I just wanted you to come in. Hey, Ryan, how you doing, my friend? Thank you very much. Got a $5 super chat from Ryan, you guys. Show him some love.
Okay, I wanted to throw this in here. Bell Prepper said, just want to add anything in the sunflower family grown in soil, untested for heavy metals. They absorb heavy metals. I'm not sure. And I don't see any other questions right now.
No, it's all good, Mark. Don't worry.
I've been 3 weeks on or die at 80 from the heart failure. That's what Wes says. He's going to go out fat.
Well, that's what selenium. That's one of the secrets. Selenium is a mineral that you're born with. You only have so much of it. If you add more to your diet and put more into your system, all these radical fats, these cooked fats, these burned fats, actually are told where to go if you ingest selenium. So even though this is one of the bad foods, that's because of our current diet. If you change your diet and you start supplementing, like with selenium, you can absorb these fats and get these radical fat tissues that are in storage in your body to break free of that and get back to where they want to be and where they need to be. That's back in the joints, back in the brain, clear up the fogginess.
Selenium, where do I get that stuff at?
Oh, that's well, my website is currently down. Uh, that's that.
Send me a link to it. Email it to me, Ron.
Hey Ron, what does that balanced diet look like? What do you suggest kind of daily diet looks like in your opinion?
In my opinion, I'm a hardcore meat eater. I don't follow those diets, but I do take my Mighty 90 every single day so that I can supplement what I'm actually missing from just being a meat eater.
Cool. I too am a meat eater, so
Yeah, if you get yourself on the Mighty 90, and I just put the link up, and you guys can find it over on the Green Wizard all the time. It's my90forlife.com under my name. You can get your hands on the minerals. You can get your hands on the minerals
No,
for your gardens.
come on, Hooples.
You can get your minerals for your selenium, the best form of selenium available, tested, what have you. And there's a bunch of doctors getting on board with this. They've been doing it for years. It's been around for a long time. A lot of people want to be naysayers about it, but if you're going to be healthy, who's gonna give you the best information? An old doctor or a dead doctor? Which one's going to lie to you the most?
The dead one.
All right, so I'm going to stick with the older doctor that's still dancing on stage at 80 plus years old.
Yep. I agree.
So yeah, I'll get that link to you, Will.
All right. I don't.
Any other questions, anybody? We can turn it loose or do whatever you want to do.
Anything out of the side chat?
I don't see anything.
Any more
new.
questions?
Wee Wee's World just says 1 tablespoon each of 2 veggies and 2 ounces of meat make a happy plate. That's the only thing I see.
Right, if they're coming out of your good garden, not coming out of a grocery store, because the minerals and the foods just aren't there anymore. You're just not going to get healthy food from a grocery store
Hey,
anymore. It's not available.
That's all I see. I don't see anything else.
Any other questions or comments?
So was Rob in the room? Was Rob here still?
He is.
Yes, he's still in here.
All right. Well, Rob, I've got a video that I'll be posting for you tomorrow if you're hearing me, because I was up in the Colorado mountains today thinking about you and your family, and had a little special moment up there. I'm gonna share that with you. So keep an eye out for that thing in the next day or two. Got a little video for you.
Right on. Rob, you know we all love you, my brother. All right, I'm going to let the side chat go. I'm going to leave everybody else in here. We'll talk about next week's. So everybody say goodbye.
See you, everybody. Thanks for coming,
Hey,
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Glad I was able to dive in real quick.
All right. Bye.
You can't go anywhere, D-Mac.
Oh, was that?
You can't go anywhere yet.
Oh no, I'm not going anywhere yet. So.
I just got to get rid of the side chat and we can talk about